The wedding dress hung like a ghost in candlelight. White silk, pearl buttons, a veil of Chantilly lace that cost more than Rosalind Ashcroft's family had earned in the last year. Silas Fairmont had sent it, along with the shoes, the gloves, the jewelry that felt like chains. Her maid, sweet young Mary, tried to smile while fastening the corset. "You look beautiful, miss, like an angel." Angels did not wear corsets that crushed the breath from their lungs. Angels did not have hands that trembled so badly the bouquet of white roses shook like something alive. "I can't breathe," Rosalind whispered. "Just nerves, miss. Every bride feels this way." No, not every bride felt like they were being sewn into their own coffin. She had met Silas Fairmont exactly twice. The first time he had assessed her like a horse at auction, checked her teeth, commented on her posture, asked invasive questions about her health, her monthly cycles, her mother's cause of death. The second time he had taken her to dinner. Wealthy guests, expensive wine, conversation that flowed around her like water around stone. Then halfway through the evening, Silas had led her into a side room. His hand found her throat, not squeezing, just resting there. A reminder. "I want you to understand something, Rosalind. I am investing £12,000 in you. When we marry, you become my property, my asset. Do you understand?" She had nodded. What else could she do? "Good, because I have plans for you, important plans, plans that involve associates who do not tolerate disappointment. You will be obedient, compliant, perfect. And in return, I will allow your father to keep his pathetic little townhouse and his pathetic little life. Refuse me, and he dies in debtor's prison. Are we clear?" Yes. His smile had been terrible. "I knew you were a smart girl." Now standing in her wedding dress, Rosalind understood. She was not marrying a man. She was being sold to one. Her father knocked. "Rosalind, are you ready?" She wanted to scream that no, she would never be ready, that this was wrong, that she would rather die than walk down that aisle. But her father's hands shook when he took her arm. His eyes were bloodshot from drinking. He could not meet her gaze. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry, but we have no choice." They walked toward the church, 4 streets. Rosalind counted every step. The wedding dress dragged in the dirt. The veil caught on her face, suffocating. Mary walked behind carrying the train, and flanking them 2 of Silas's men, dressed as footmen, but their eyes were too watchful. Their hands rested near their coats where weapons might hide. They were not there to honor her. They were there to ensure she arrived. Halfway to the church, a street vendor's cart overturned. Apples rolled across the cobblestones. The footmen turned to look. 3 seconds. That was all she had. Rosalind ran. The wedding dress was an anchor. The veil blinded her, but she kicked off the satin slippers and ran barefoot over stones, behind her shouting. Her father's voice, Mary's scream, the footmen's boots pounding closer. She turned down an alley. Her lungs burned. The corset was too tight. She could not breathe, could not think, could only run. The alley opened onto a narrow street behind the church. And there, as if waiting, sat a black carriage. Not just any carriage. The doors were lacquered midnight black. The crest painted in silver showed a raven perched on a thorn bush. The raven-shade crest. The vampire duke. The scarred monster every mother in London used to frighten children into obedience. The carriage door stood slightly open. Behind her, the footman rounded the corner. Rosalind did not hesitate. She dove inside, pulling the door shut, collapsing onto the floor between the seats. Her heart hammered so violently, she thought her ribs might crack. The interior smelled of tobacco and old leather, expensive, masculine, dark. She squeezed her eyes shut and prayed, "Please, please let it be empty. You're bleeding on my upholstery." Her eyes snapped open. He sat in the shadows opposite, so still she had not seen him. Black coat, black gloves, face half hidden by a high collar. But she could see enough, the scars. 3 jagged lines of silver white cutting across his left cheek from temple to jaw. Not the pink of healing human wounds. Something else. Something that caught the light wrong. And his eyes, dark, unblinking, fixed on her with the intensity of a predator. Lord Lucian Ravenshade, the vampire Duke of Thornwick. "Please," Rosalind whispered, "please don't send me back to them." He did not answer, did not move, just watched her with those terrible ancient eyes. Outside, voices erupted. Footsteps pounded against cobblestones. "Check every carriage," Silas's voice, fury making it sharp as broken glass. She couldn't have gone far in that dress. Rosalind's blood turned to ice. She looked up at the Duke, eyes pleading. He tilted his head slightly, considering. The footsteps grew closer. A shadow fell across the window. Someone tried the door handle. In one smooth motion, the Duke reached down and pulled Rosalind up from the floor. Before she could process what was happening, he positioned her on the seat beside him, draped his heavy cloak over her completely, and wrapped one arm around the bundle. "Don't breathe loudly," he murmured. His voice was soft, almost gentle, but underneath something else. "Don't move. Don't make a sound." The carriage door opened. Cold air rushed in. "Lord Ravenshade," Silas's tone attempted respect. Failed. "Forgive the intrusion. I'm searching for someone, a young woman in a wedding dress. My bride. She's confused. Not well. Have you seen her?" Silence. Then the Duke's voice, flat and utterly disinterested. "I've seen several young women today, Fairmont. London is full of them. This one is mine. She needs help. How unfortunate. But as you can see, I'm alone. And I have business that will not wait. Close the door." If I could just close the door. The temperature dropped. Not metaphorically, actually dropped. Rosalind felt frost form on the window glass beside her. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Silas's footsteps retreated. The door clicked shut. Outside, the search moved down the street, voices fading. Only when the sounds had completely disappeared did the Duke pull the cloak away. Rosalind looked up at him. Her face was wet with tears she had not realized she had shed. "Why did you—" "I don't like Fairmont." The Duke's tone remained flat. "And I don't like men who hunt women through the streets like animals." He tapped the roof twice. The horses began to move. "Where are we going?" Fear made her voice small. "Thornwick Castle, my estate." "But I can't. I have nowhere else to go. No money. My family will disown me. Silas will—" "Then it's fortunate," the Duke interrupted, "that Fairmont's opinion no longer matters. You're under my protection now." "Why?" He turned to look at her fully for the first time. The scars on his face caught the dim light. "Because I will not make the same mistake twice." Before Rosalind could ask what he meant, he reached into his coat and produced a handkerchief. Pristine white, monogrammed with the Ravenshade crest. "You're bleeding." She looked down. Her hands were scraped raw, her feet cut from running over cobblestones, small wounds weeping blood onto her ruined gloves. She took the handkerchief with shaking fingers. "Thank you." The Duke said nothing. He simply turned to look out the window as the carriage carried them away from London, away from the church, away from Silas, away from the life that had almost consumed her. 3 hours earlier, Lord Lucien Ravenshade had stood in the council chamber counting candles. The chandelier above held 173 flames, one for each year of his existence. Old habits died hard. Some habits never died at all. He stood in the shadows where he belonged. Black coat, black gloves. The other vampires gave him space. They always did. Scarred things made even monsters uncomfortable. The council elder spoke in that voice like winter wind through dead leaves. "Lord Fairmont has petitioned for witness seal on a blood contract. The human girl Rosalind Ashcroft. Sale price £12,000. Buyer Silas Fairmont. Purpose—" The elder paused. "Unspecified." Lucien's jaw tightened. Unspecified. In their world, that word meant only one thing. A vampire in crimson silk whispered to her companion, "The Ashcroft girl. I've heard her blood is remarkable. Pure. The kind that sings on the tongue." Lucien's hands became fists inside his gloves. The elder continued, "The contract will be sealed 3 days hence. After the vows, she becomes his property under both human and vampire law. Are there any who contest this arrangement?" Silence. The vampires of London did not interfere in each other's hunting grounds. Lucian stepped forward. "I contest it." Every face turned. "Lord Ravenshade, on what grounds?" "The Ashcroft family debt was purchased 4 years ago. The contract Fairmont holds is void. The debt belongs to me." The chamber erupted. The elder raised one skeletal hand. Silence fell. "You have documentation." Lucian produced papers from inside his coat. Thick parchment, wax seals, blood signatures in fading brown. The elder read slowly. "The claim is legitimate." His gaze moved to Silas Fairmont. "Lord Fairmont, your contract is invalidated. The girl belongs to Ravenshade's interest." Silas's face went red, then white. "This is an outrage. The wedding is in 3 days. Then you should have verified the debt holder's identity before making arrangements." The elder dismissed him. This session is concluded. The vampires dispersed. Silas remained trembling with fury. You'll regret this, Ravenshade. That girl is mine. I've already made promises to parties who don't accept disappointment kindly. Tell them to be disappointed. Lucian's voice was soft, cold. The girl is under my protection now. Your protection? Silas laughed, bitter and sharp. Like you protected that other one, what was her name, Morgana? We all know how that ended, with her screaming, with your face carved open. The scars burned. They always burned when someone spoke her name. You're not a protector, Ravenshade. You're a failure wearing a title. And this time when you fail, I'll be there to pick up the pieces. He left. His footsteps echoed long after he vanished. Lucien stood alone, 173 candles burning above. In all that time, he had saved exactly no one who mattered. Not his sister, not Morgana, but perhaps this time. The night before the wedding, Lucien positioned his carriage near St. Mary's Church. If the girl ran, he would be there. And now she sat beside him. Bloody, terrified, free. Thornwick Castle rose from the moorland like something from a nightmare-made architecture. Gray stone, towers at each corner. Windows narrow as knife wounds. The carriage passed through iron gates, up a long drive lined with dead trees. Candlelight flickered in some windows. Signs of life, or whatever approximation of life existed in a vampire's home. The Duke had not spoken during the hour-long journey. When the carriage stopped, he stepped out first, turned back to offer his hand. Rosalind hesitated. Her feet were torn. Her dress was filthy. I can't walk in like this, she whispered. Everyone will see. Everyone will see exactly what I allow them to see. His hand remained extended. Nothing more. She took his hand. His grip was cool through the glove, strong. The small stones pressed into her wounded feet. She winced. Without a word, the Duke swept her up into his arms. Rosalind gasped, clutching at his coat. Your Grace, I can walk. Not on those feet. He carried her up the stone steps as if she weighed nothing. A servant opened the door, face carefully blank at the sight of his master carrying a blood-stained bride. The entrance hall was massive, vaulted ceiling, dark wood paneling, a staircase that curved upward into shadow. Portraits lined the walls, faces from centuries past, watching with painted eyes. Mrs. Helena. A woman appeared, elderly, severe black dress, but her eyes, when they fell on Rosalind, softened with something almost maternal. Prepare the East Wing guest suite, the Duke ordered. Have a bath drawn, clothes laid out. Send for Dr. Morrison. At once, Your Grace. Mrs. Helena's gaze swept over Rosalind. Will the young lady be staying long? Indefinitely. He set Rosalind down gently on a chair near a fireplace large enough to stand in. See that she has everything she requires. The housekeeper curtsied and hurried away. Rosalind looked up at the Duke, who was already turning to leave. Wait, her voice stopped him. I don't understand. Why are you doing this? What do you want from me? He paused. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, almost distant. I want you to rest, to heal, to remember what it feels like to be safe. He glanced back. The firelight made his scars stand out in sharp relief. We'll discuss details tomorrow. For now, you need to recover. But Silas, he'll come for me. Silas Fairmont is no longer your concern. Something dark flickered in the Duke's eyes. He's mine. Before Rosalind could ask what that meant, he was gone. Mrs. Helena returned with 3 maids. They helped Rosalind through corridors, up the grand staircase, through hallways lined with portraits and shadows. The East Wing suite was larger than her entire family townhouse. Emerald silk wallpaper, canopy bed draped in velvet, a marble fireplace. Through tall windows, she could see the estate's grounds stretching toward dark woods. The maids worked efficiently, helped her out of the ruined wedding dress, drew a bath that smelled of lavender, washed her hair, treated her cuts with gentle hands. The doctor arrived, checked for broken bones, declared she would heal perfectly with rest, bandaged her feet with soft cotton. By the time they dressed her in a nightgown, Rosalind could barely keep her eyes open. Exhaustion crashed over her like a wave. The maids tucked her into the bed. She sank into pillows that felt like clouds. Rest now, miss. Mrs. Helena adjusted the blankets. You're safe here. His Grace has given orders that no one is to disturb you. Rosalind wanted to ask questions, but sleep pulled her under before she could form words. She dreamed of carriages and candles and eyes that glowed in darkness. When she woke, afternoon sunlight streamed through the windows. For a moment, she could not remember where she was. Then it all came flooding back. A dress had been laid out. Deep burgundy wool, simple but elegant. Rosalind dressed slowly, her body ached. Her feet were tender beneath fresh bandages. But she was alive, free, safe if the Duke's words could be trusted. A knock at the door. "Come in." A young maid entered, curtsied. "His Grace requests your presence in the music room, miss." The maid led her down corridors. More paintings, more silence. Thornwick Castle felt less like a home and more like a mausoleum. The music room was in the south tower. Tall windows let in pale afternoon light, and in the center sat a grand piano. Rosalind stopped in the doorway, stared. She had not seen a piano since her mother died. Her father had sold theirs to pay debts. Music had been the first thing sacrificed. "You play." The Duke's voice came from the shadows near the window. "I used to, before—" She stopped, before everything fell apart. "Mrs. Helena mentioned it. Apparently your reputation as a pianist was well known." Rosalind approached the piano slowly, touched the keys with trembling fingers. "Play something," the Duke said. "I haven't played in 2 years. I'm not sure I remember." "Play anyway." She sat, positioned her hands, closed her eyes, let muscle memory take over. The piece that came was Chopin. Nocturne in E-flat major, slow, melancholic, her mother's favorite. The notes filled the room like ghosts returning. Rosalind lost herself in it, forgot the Duke was watching, forgot everything except the music. When the last note faded, she opened her eyes. The Duke had moved closer. He stood beside the piano now. Something in his eyes looked different, less cold, less distant. "How long?" he asked quietly. "How long what?" "How long since you heard music?" "2 years, since the piano was sold." He nodded slowly. "I haven't heard music in this room for 6 years." The weight in those words made Rosalind understand. Someone had played here before. Someone who mattered. "What happened 6 years ago?" she asked gently. The Duke's expression shuddered. "That is a conversation for another time." He walked to a side table and poured amber liquid into a glass. Did not drink it, just held it. "I need you to understand something, Rosalind." He did not look at her. "I did not bring you here out of kindness. I brought you here because I own your family's debt. Have owned it for 4 years. The words hit like a slap. "What?" "I purchased the Ashcroft debt from the original creditors in 1843. Inserted protective clauses. Waited." Rosalind stood. "You manipulated everything. The wedding, the escape, this rescue." Calculated, yes. Now he looked at her. "Because 4 months ago I learned Silas Fairmont was planning to purchase your family's debt and marry you. And I knew what that meant. It meant he wanted a wife." "No," the Duke's voice went hard. "It meant he wanted your blood." The room tilted. What?" "Sit down, I'll explain." She did not want to sit, wanted to run, but her legs were shaking. The Duke moved to stand before the fireplace. "You need to understand how our world works. Vampires and humans have coexisted for centuries. Most humans don't know, but some, like Fairmont, have discovered the truth, and they've found ways to profit from it." "I don't understand." "Fairmont trades in human lives. He identifies people with specific blood qualities, rare types, pure bloodlines, and he sells them to vampires who crave that taste." Rosalind's stomach turned. "And I'm exceptional. You have a rare genetic marker, something that makes your blood taste to vampires like sunlight and honey. Addictive, precious. So Silas was going to marry you legally, establish ownership, then either drain you slowly over years or sell you outright to the highest bidder." The room spun. "And why did you buy my father's debt?" "To prevent exactly that." The Duke's voice softened slightly. "I heard rumors of Fairmont's plans. Investigated, learned about you, bought the debt before he could, inserted clauses that protected you from supernatural exploitation. So you've owned me for 4 years." "No, I've protected you for 4 years, without your knowledge. I never intended to invoke the debt. I hoped your father would recover financially, that you'd marry someone decent. But he didn't. No. 3 months ago, Fairmont paid your father directly, bypassed the debt holders, created a separate marriage contract. I didn't discover it until it was almost too late." Rosalind stood, paced to the window. "So you positioned your carriage near the church, waited for me to run." "Yes." "Manipulated me into seeking your protection." "Yes." She turned to face him. Why not just tell my father, show him the protective clauses? For the first time, the Duke's composure cracked slightly. Because your father is a desperate man. Fairmont offered him immediate cash. Your father would have taken the money anyway. The only way to truly protect you was to remove you from the situation entirely. By making me your prisoner instead. No, he moved to a desk, opened a drawer, removed a stack of papers. He threw them into the fireplace. The papers caught immediately, curled black, turned to ash. You're not my prisoner, he said, watching them burn. Those were the debt documents, every legal claim I had to you or your family. Gone. Rosalind stared. Why would you? Because you deserve to choose freely. If you want to leave Thornwick, I'll give you money, references, help you start over anywhere. And if I stay, he turned to look at her. If you stay as a guest, free to leave whenever you choose. I ask nothing except that you let me try to do what I failed to do 6 years ago. Protect someone who deserves protection. The vulnerability in his voice was unexpected. Raw. Rosalind studied him, this vampire duke with his scars and his guilt. What happened 6 years ago? She asked again, softer this time. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, as if the words were being pulled from somewhere deep and painful, he began to speak. Her name was Morgana. The Duke moved to the window, looked out at darkness and gathering over the grounds. Morgana Sinclair. She worked in a bookshop on Dover Street. She wore flowers in her hair even in winter. She believed monsters were just people who hadn't been shown enough kindness. Rosalind remained silent, listening. I was different then. I believed I could exist in both worlds, human and vampire. Morgana knew what I was. She wasn't afraid. She used to say that being a monster was a choice, that I chose every day not to be one. He touched the scars on his face. She made me believe I could be something other than cursed. You loved her, Trine. I never told her, never allowed myself. She was human. She would age, die. I would remain. His voice grew distant. But I stayed close anyway. Told myself it was friendship. What happened? Silas Fairmont happened. The name came out like poison. He was courting eligible women across London. Morgana caught his attention. She was beautiful, intelligent, and she had something he wanted. Her blood. Yes, though she didn't know, I tried to warn her, but she thought I was jealous. She accepted his proposal. The Duke's hands became fists. There was an engagement party, a manor house outside the city. Fairmont's vampire associates were there. They turned the celebration into a feeding party. Morgana saw too much, tried to run. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. Fairmont caught her in the garden. He'd made arrangements with an ancient vampire. The turning was supposed to be controlled. Instead, it went wrong. Something in Morgana's blood drove the creature mad. It drained her too violently. The transformation corrupted. Rosalind's breath caught. She died. Worse, she began to change into something broken. Feral, trapped between human and monster with no control. No humanity left. What did you do? I killed the ancient vampire, fought Fairmont's hunters. They had silver weapons. He gestured to his scars. These don't heal. Silver burns vampires permanently. These will mark me until my final death. And Morgana. Silence. Long and terrible. The hunters tried to destroy her. I stopped them. Brought her here. The council declared her deceased. Fairmont paid some fines. Returned to society. He turned to look at Rosalind, and I failed her. Completely. The pain in his eyes was ancient, raw. Rosalind stood, moved closer. You tried. That's more than most would have done. Trying isn't enough when the result is corruption. Is that why you saved me, to make up for her? Partly. He met her gaze. But also because you deserve to be saved. Not as penance for my past, but because you are a person with value, with life ahead of you, and I will not let Fairmont destroy another innocent. The weight of those words settled between them. Tell me the rest, Rosalind said quietly. About Morgana, what really happened to her? The Duke's jaw tightened. Come with me, I'll show you. He led her from the music room, through corridors, up a narrow staircase that spiraled into the North Tower. The air grew colder with each step. The stones here were older, darker. At the top, an iron door, locked with 3 mechanisms. What's behind there? She asked. The truth I've been hiding for 6 years. He unlocked the door. It opened with a sound like grinding bones. The room beyond was circular, windows barred with silver, Chains bolted to the floor and walls, and in the center, huddled in shadow, something moved. At first, Rosalind thought it was an animal. Then it stepped into the torchlight. A woman, or what had once been a woman, pale skin stretched too tight over bones, eyes that glowed red, hair tangled and wild, fingernails grown into claws. Around her neck and wrists, chains made of pure silver that smoked where they touched flesh. The creature hissed, lunged forward. The chains caught. It thrashed like a rabid dog. "Dear God," Rosalind whispered. "Not God." The Duke's voice was hollow. "This is Morgana." Rosalind stared, horror and pity warring in her chest. "She's alive. If you can call this living." The Duke's voice was hollow. "The hunters didn't take her body, I did. I couldn't let them destroy her. I brought her here, chained her, kept her existing, hoping I might find a cure." The creature stopped thrashing, tilted her head, looked directly at Rosalind with those burning red eyes. When she spoke, her voice was a broken rasp. "Kill me." The Duke flinched. "Morgana, no. Kill me, Lucien. Please. The chains burn. The hunger never stops. I can't remember my own name most days. Can't remember what sunlight looked like. Can't remember anything except blood and pain and this endless nightmare." Tears tracked down her too pale cheeks. "I'm not human anymore. Not vampire either. I'm corruption. I'm suffering. End it." Rosalind felt her own tears rising. She looked at the Duke, saw devastation written across his face. "I can't," he said to Morgana. "I can't give up on you. You're not giving up on me. You're setting me free. There has to be a cure. Something I've been researching. 6 years I've spent in agony." Morgana's voice rose to a shriek. 6 years of silver burning my skin and blood hunger eating my mind. How many more years, Lucien? How many more before there's nothing left of me at all? The Duke had no answer. Rosalind stepped forward. The creature's eyes fixed on her, nostrils flared. "Your blood," Morgana whispered. "It smells like, I can't remember, something from before." "Like what?" Rosalind asked gently. "Spring, music, kindness." The creature began to weep. "I used to know those things. Now I'm just hunger and hate, and I want to die." "Oh, no!" Rosalind's voice cut through the despair. "There's always hope, always a chance. You don't understand. I mean, I understand that you're suffering, but maybe you haven't suffered in vain. Maybe there is a cure, and maybe I can help find it." The Duke stared at her. "What are you saying? You said my blood is special. What if that's the key? What if the answer has been here all along? You want to help cure her. I want to try, because if she can be saved, she deserves that chance, and so do you." Morgana had gone still, watching Rosalind with something almost like hope flickering in those red eyes. "Why would you do this?" the Duke asked. "Why would you risk yourself for a stranger?" "Because she's not a monster. She's a victim. And because you gave me a choice when no one else would. Let me give her the same." The silence that followed was broken only by chains shifting, by Morgana's ragged breathing. Finally, the Duke nodded. "Then we try. But if it becomes too dangerous, then we deal with it, side by side." He repeated the word like it was foreign, like he'd forgotten what it meant. They left Morgana's tower. The Duke locked the door with all three mechanisms. As they descended, Rosalind felt his gaze on her. "You're not afraid of her," he observed. "I'm terrified, but fear isn't a reason to give up on someone. Most people would run from this castle. I'm not most people." "No." Something almost like warmth touched his voice. "You're not." But they spent the next 3 days in the library. Books piled on every surface. Medical texts, vampire histories, alchemical treatises. The Duke pulled volumes from shelves untouched for decades. Rosalind read until her eyes burned. They learned that feral vampires were rare, that most died within weeks, that Morgana surviving 6 years was unprecedented. They learned that the corruption came from incomplete transformation, that something crucial had been damaged. "The ancient vampire that turned her," Rosalind said, studying a diagram, "it was driven mad by her blood. What if that madness caused it to rush, to not complete the necessary steps?" The Duke looked up. Meaning she might be frozen partway between human and vampire. "How does that help us? If we can identify what's missing, maybe we can finish the transformation properly, or reverse it entirely." They worked side by side, hours bleeding into days, the Duke teaching her about vampire biology, Rosalind bringing fresh perspective to problems he'd stared at too long. There were moments of quiet, moments when they'd both look up and find the other watching, moments when their hands would brush and something electric would pass between them. "Tell me about your life," the Duke said one evening. They'd moved to the music room. Rosalind played while he listened. "My life, there's not much to tell. You're 22, talented, intelligent. There must be stories." Her fingers stilled. "My mother died when I was 16. Pneumonia. She taught me to play. After she was gone, my father, grief and gambling made poor companions. The money disappeared. One day I was a girl with prospects. The next I was a bargaining chip. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me that the only person you can rely on is yourself. That's a lonely lesson." "Yes," she looked at him. "I imagine you understand loneliness. More than I care to admit. Tell me about the beginning, how you became this." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I was born in 1674. Human, ordinary. I had a sister, Elizabeth, 4 years younger. When she was 14, she fell ill, wasting sickness. The doctors gave her months. What did you do?" "I made a bargain. There was a vampire in our village, ancient. He offered me a choice. Become like him and he would save Elizabeth. I would have eternity. She would have her life." "You agreed." "I was 18, desperate. I didn't understand what eternity meant." His voice grew distant. "He kept his word. He turned me, saved Elizabeth, but he couldn't stop time. She lived, grew up, married, had children, grew old, and I stayed 18, watching from the shadows, attending her funeral when I looked exactly as I had the day I made the bargain. That's when you understood what you'd given up. Yes, the vampire who made me wanted a companion, someone to share eternity with. But I couldn't watch everyone I loved age and die. So I left, wandered, eventually became Duke of Thornwick. I've been here ever since. Alone, it seems safer, until Morgana." They sat in silence, the piano silent now, only the fire crackling. "I've been thinking," Rosalind said carefully. "Silas won't stop. He'll come for me." "He will. The debt contracts are gone, but he'll find other ways. Then we need to be prepared. We need to announce our marriage, make it official in vampire society." The Duke turned to look at her fully. "You want to pretend to be my wife?" "I want to make Silas understand that I'm untouchable. If that means a partnership, yes, I'm willing." "Why, bio?" "Because I want to help Morgana. And I can't do that if Silas drags me away, because you've given me safety when I had none." She met his eyes. "Because I think we could help each other." "I don't need help." "Liar." The word was soft. "You've been carrying Morgana's suffering for 6 years. You've been punishing yourself for every failure. You need someone to share the burden. Let me be that person." He studied her face, searching for deception, for pity, found neither. "A partnership, then," he said finally. "We present ourselves as married. You gain protection. I gain assistance with the research. Someone who won't let me give up." She smiled slightly. "And maybe someone who can remind you that you're not the monster you believe yourself to be." "I am a monster. You're a man who's made mistakes. There's a difference." He looked at her for a long time, then slowly, unexpectedly, he smiled. It was small, but it transformed his face. The scars became just lines, the coldness melted. "Very well. Partners." He extended his hand. Rosalind took it. "Tomorrow," he said, "we'll send word to the Vampire Council, announce the marriage, prepare for the fallout. Will there be much? Society will be scandalized. They'll assume I've coerced you. Silas will certainly argue that. Then we'll prove them wrong." The next morning brought visitors. Rosalind was in the library when Mrs. Helena found her. The housekeeper's face was troubled. "Miss, there are people at the gate, your family." Rosalind's stomach dropped. "My father and your aunt. They're asking to see you. His Grace is speaking with them now." Rosalind ran, through corridors, downstairs, to the entrance hall where the Duke stood facing two people she knew too well. Her father, gray-haired, shoulders bent, eyes red from sleepless nights, and her Aunt Judith, mother's sister, the one who'd told Rosalind she was selfish for not wanting to marry Silas. "Rosalind," her father surged forward. The Duke blocked him with one raised hand. "Stay where you are, Mr. Ashcroft. Please, I need to speak with my daughter. I need to apologize." "You need to leave my property." "No," Rosalind's voice cut through the tension. She moved to stand beside the Duke. "Let him speak." Her father's face crumpled. "I'm so sorry." "God, Rosalind." I'm so sorry. I was weak, desperate. Silas offered money, and I couldn't see past it. I didn't know he was a monster. You knew I didn't want to marry him. I thought you'd adjust. I thought, he broke down, sobbed. I thought my needs mattered more than your happiness. And I was wrong, so terribly wrong. Aunt Judith stepped forward. Her face was hard. This is dramatics. Rosalind, you've caused a scandal. Run off with him. She gestured at the Duke with distaste. Come home. We'll find you a decent match. Decent like Silas, Rosalind's voice was ice. Mr. Fairmont is wealthy. And evil. He was going to sell me. Did you know that Aunt Judith? He trades in human lives. Her aunt paled. That's absurd. He's a devil. The Duke's voice was quiet, deadly. And if you defend him again in my presence, you'll learn exactly how monstrous I can be. Aunt Judith fell silent. Rosalind's father looked at her, really looked, saw the bandages, the shadows under her eyes, the way she stood straight despite everything. You're safe here, he said, not a question. Yes, and happy. She thought about the library, the research, the music, the partnership growing. I'm becoming happy, yes. Her father nodded, turned to the Duke. I owe you a debt I can never repay. You've given my daughter what I couldn't. You owe me nothing, but you owe her an apology and changed behavior. I know. He looked at Rosalind. I'm attending a recovery program for the gambling, selling the townhouse, taking work as a clerk. I won't be wealthy, but I'll be honest. And I'll never sell you again. Tears stung Rosalind's eyes. Do you mean that? I swear it. On your mother's grave. She wanted to hate him, but he was her father. Broken and flawed, but still her father. Then you're forgiven. Not forgotten, but forgiven. He broke down again, this time with relief. Aunt Judith sniffed. What will people say? I don't care what people say, Rosalind replied. I'm the Duchess of Thornwick now. Duchess, her aunt's eyes went wide. You married him? Yes, 2 days ago, privately. It's done. The Duke said nothing, but his hand found the small of Rosalind's back, a subtle gesture of support. Her father managed a smile. Then I've gained a son-in-law. Your Grace, I hope you'll allow me to visit occasionally, to prove I can be better. You may visit, under supervision, and if you bring gambling debts to my door, you'll be turned away permanently. Understood. Thank you. They left soon after, Aunt Judith still sputtering, her father walking lighter. When they were gone, Rosalind sagged against the wall. Are you all right? The Duke asked. I think so. That was necessary and brave. I lied to them about the marriage. We'll make it real enough. The announcement goes to the council today. In 3 days, there's a gathering. The Blood Moon Ball. All vampire nobility attends. We'll present ourselves there. Make it official. The Blood Moon Ball. The name sent shivers down her spine. It's our best opportunity. Silas will be there. We face him publicly. Put this matter to rest. And if we fail, we won't. His certainty was absolute. Because I will not lose another person to that man. The intensity in his voice made her breath catch. Lucien, she said, using his name for the first time. Thank you. For what? For being exactly who you are. Thank you for choosing to save me. He looked at her like she'd said something in a language he didn't understand. Then carefully he reached out and touched her cheek. I should be thanking you, he said quietly, for reminding me what it feels like to have purpose. They stood in the entrance hall, close enough to feel each other's warmth. For a moment, Rosalind thought he might kiss her. Instead, he stepped back, cleared his throat. We have work to do. The ball is in 3 days. We need to prepare. Yes, of course. But something had changed between them. Some wall had cracked. That evening, Silas Fairmont arrived at Thornwick's Inn. He came with 6 men, vampire hunters, armed with silver weapons. They demanded entry. The Duke met them in the courtyard. Rosalind watched from a window above. You're trespassing, Fairmont. I'm retrieving stolen property. The girl. You have no legal claim. I have every claim. She's my wife. Silas laughed, harsh and mocking. Your wife, the scarred hermit who hasn't left his castle in years, suddenly marries a runaway bride. It's absurd. Believe what you like. The marriage is legal. She's under my protection. Prove it. Show me the bond mark. Show me anything that proves this isn't you playing hero again. I don't need to prove anything to you. Then I'll take it to the council. I'll argue compulsion, coercion. When they rule in my favor, I'll take the girl and you'll have nothing. Try. The Duke's voice dropped to a lethal whisper. Try to take her. See what happens. For a moment, it looked like Silas would give the order. Silver weapons glinted. Then Silas smiled. The blood moon ball. 3 days. We'll settle this properly, with the council as witness. And when they declare your marriage fraudulent, I'll enjoy watching you fail again. Just like you failed Morgana. The Duke flinched. Barely, but Silas saw it. Oh yes, I know she's here. Locked in your tower. You think the council doesn't know they allow it because you're nobility. But if I were to present evidence that you're keeping a feral vampire illegally, he let the threat hang. Stay away from her. Or what? You're not so frightening, Ravenshade. You're just a broken thing pretending to be powerful. And in 3 days, everyone will see it. Silas and his men left. Rosalind found the Duke in his study. He stood at the window, hands braced against the frame, shaking slightly. He knows about Morgana, Rosalind said. Yes. Will the council care? Keeping feral vampires is forbidden. If Silas reports it, they'll order her destroyed. And punish me. Then we use that. He turned. What? We go to the ball, present our marriage as real, and offer the council something they can't refuse. We offer to share our research, to develop a cure for feral vampirism. We turn Morgana from a liability into an opportunity. That's risky, but it's our best chance. We make ourselves valuable. We force Silas to choose between exposing us and looking like the villain he is. The Duke stared at her, then slowly that small smile returned. You're brilliant. I'm desperate. There's a difference. No, you're brilliant and brave. And I'm starting to understand why Silas wants you. Not for your blood, but because you're the kind of person who changes everything. Ugh, she felt heat rise to her cheeks. That's true. He moved closer. Rosalind, if we do this, there's no going back. Society will expect things. The council will watch closely. We'll have to convince them that what we have is real. Then we convince them. How? She reached for his hand, laced her fingers through his. We start by believing it ourselves. His breath caught. I've been alone for so long, he said quietly. I've forgotten how to be anything else. Then learn again, with me. In the North Tower, Morgana listened to the silence. The chains burned, the hunger gnawed. But for the first time in 6 years, she felt something else. Hope. The girl with the spring-scented blood and the vampire with the scarred face, they were trying. Maybe this time someone would be saved. 3 days until the blood moon ball. 3 days to prepare, to plan, to convince the world that a vampire and a human could choose each other freely. 3 days to save a life. Or lose everything. The moon rose full and red over Thornwick Castle. Inside, 2 people who had been strangers sat side by side in the library. Reading, researching, building something that might be partnership, might be friendship, might be something more. And in the shadows between them, hope flickered like candlelight. The storm was coming. Silas, the council, the truth about Morgana. But for now they had each other, and that would have to be enough. The gown arrived the morning of the ball, deep crimson silk that shimmered like fresh blood in candlelight, black lace at the throat and wrists, a neckline that showed the pale curve of Rosalind's collarbones, the kind of dress a vampire's wife would wear. Mrs. Helena helped her into it, laced the corset tight, arranged her hair with silver pins shaped like thorns. When Rosalind looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked powerful, dangerous, like someone who belonged in the Duke's world. You're trembling, miss, Mrs. Helena observed. I'm terrified. That's wise, but his grace will be beside you. He won't let anything happen. That's what frightens me. What if protecting me costs him everything? The housekeeper's hand stilled. He's been alone so long. If protecting you costs him his solitude, his guilt, perhaps that's not a cost. Perhaps that's a gift. Rosalind met the old woman's eyes in the mirror. You care for him. I've served this house for 40 years, watched him punish himself, watched him fade into shadow. You've brought him back, miss. Whatever happens tonight, you've already given him more than he had. A knock, the Duke's voice. May I come in? Yes. He entered, stopped, stared. He wore black. But tonight the coat was velvet embroidered with silver thread. His cravat was pristine white, and at his collar a pin bearing the Ravenshade crest. But it was his face that made Rosalind's breath catch. He'd pulled his hair back, left the scars fully visible. No hiding, just truth. You look, he struggled for words. You look like a queen. I look like I'm going to war. Perhaps that's the same thing. He moved closer, drew something from his pocket. A necklace, silver chain, a pendant shaped like a raven with rubies for eyes. This belonged to my mother, he said quietly. It's been in the Ravenshade family for 3 centuries. It's meant to be worn by the Duchess. By my wife. Lucian, I can't. Please, let me give you something real. Something that says this matters. That you matter. She turned, let him fasten it around her neck. The pendant settled against her skin, warm despite being metal. His fingers lingered at her nape. Thank you, she whispered. No, thank you, for standing beside me when you could have run. They stood close enough to kiss, close enough to cross the line between partnership and something more. Rosalind could feel his breath. Then Mrs. Helena cleared her throat. The carriage is ready, Your Grace. The moment broke, but something remained. The journey to the council hall took an hour. They rode in silence. Lucian stared out the window. Rosalind watched him, memorizing the line of his jaw, the way moonlight caught in his hair. What are you thinking, she asked, that I've brought you into danger? Then we face it. That was the agreement. She reached across the space between them, took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, tight, as if she were the only solid thing in a tilting world. The council hall rose before them like a cathedral built for darkness. Black stone, stained glass windows depicting vampire history in shades of red and gold, torches burning with blue flame, everywhere carriages, hundreds of them, disgorging vampire nobility. Lucian helped Rosalind down, offered his arm. The whispers started immediately, a low buzz of scandal that followed them through the entrance. Into the great hall where chandeliers dripped with crystals, where vampires in silk and velvet turned to stare. The Duke of Thornwick, a herald announced, and his wife, the Duchess Rosalind Ravenshade. The room fell silent. Then the whispers exploded. Lucian led Rosalind through the crowd, head high, face impassive. She matched his stride, refused to shrink, let them stare. She was the Duchess now. The council sat at the far end on raised thrones, 5 ancient vampires. The elder in the center was the one Lucian had faced before. Eyes like empty wells. Lord Ravenshade, the elder intoned, you've caused quite a stir. Married, after all these years. Yes, elder. And this is the girl from the Fairmont contract. This is my wife. The contract is void. Murmurs rippled. The elder raised a hand. Silence fell. Mr. Fairmont has petitioned the council. He claims coercion, compulsion. He argues the marriage is fraudulent. I was not forced. Rosalind's voice rang clear. I married Lord Ravenshade of my own free will. The council requires proof. What proof would satisfy you? A blood bond, a true connection, evidence this is more than a political arrangement. Rosalind felt Lucien tense. Blood bonds were sacred. Sharing blood created a link that couldn't be faked. But it also meant intimacy, trust, connection that couldn't be undone. We can provide that proof, Lucien said carefully, but I require something in return. The elder's eyebrow raised. You bargain with the council. I offer the council an opportunity. In my castle, I keep a feral vampire. Morgana Sinclair. She's survived 6 years. My wife and I have been researching a cure. We're close to a breakthrough. Allow us to continue. Allow Morgana to live. And we'll share our findings. Imagine the implications. A cure for feral vampirism. No more destroyed vampires. The council members leaned together, whispered. The crowd buzzed. Finally, the elder spoke. An interesting offer, but the council has conditions. You must choose Lord Ravenshade, your wife's protection or the feral vampire's life. We cannot allow both risks. If the girl is truly yours, prove it by sacrificing the monster. If the monster matters more, then the girl is clearly not your true wife and should be returned to Fairmont. The trap was perfect, elegant, cruel. Lucien's hand tightened on Rosalind's. That's impossible. To prove where your loyalty lies. She's not a monster. She's a victim. Then sacrifice the victim for your wife, or admit the marriage is a sham. Rosalind felt Lucien vibrating with rage. His scars stood out white. Before he could speak, before he could make a choice that would destroy him, Rosalind stepped forward. The council asked the wrong question, she said clearly. You asked my husband to choose between love and honor, between me and someone he failed to save. But that's a false choice, because I choose for both of us. You have no voice here, girl. I have every voice. I'm the Duchess of Thornwick, and I say this, we will cure Morgana. We will prove feral vampires can be saved. With or without without the council's blessing. But know this, if you force my husband to kill an innocent to prove his love, then you prove only that this council values cruelty over justice. And I will make sure every vampire in this room knows it. The silence was deafening. Then chaos erupted, voices shouting, arguments breaking out. In the confusion, Silas Fairmont appeared. Quite a speech, he said. Shame it won't matter. What have you done, Fairmont? Simply ensured the council sees the truth. My men are at Thornwick now, retrieving her, bringing her here, so everyone can see what you've been hiding. Lucian's face went white. If you touch her, too late. A disturbance at the entrance, screaming, people scattering. Through the doors dragged by silver chains came Morgana. She was more feral than Rosalind had ever seen. Eyes blazing red, skin stretched tight, hissing, fighting the chains with inhuman strength. The council rose. The elder's voice boomed. What is the meaning of this? This, Silas announced, is the monster Lord Ravenshade has been keeping illegally. Morgana Sinclair, turned 6 years ago, feral and dangerous, and he's been hiding her, violating every council law. The crowd pressed back, frightened. Morgana's wild gaze swept the room, landed on Lucienne. Something flickered. Recognition. Then her gaze shifted to Rosalind, and the creature went still. Spring, she whispered. Music. Kindness. Morgana. Lucienne moved toward her. Silas's men blocked him. You can't save her, Ravenshade. She's too far gone. The council will order her destroyed. You'll be punished. Your reputation, your title, everything gone. And the girl, Silas smiled, the girl becomes available again. You bastard, Silas gestured to his men. Take the girl. Hands grabbed Rosalind. She struggled. Lucien lunged. Silver weapons flashed. He fell back, hissing as a blade cut his arm. Stop, the elder's voice cut through chaos. This is a council matter. The girl stays until we've deliberated. But in the confusion, Silas's men had already dragged Rosalind toward a side door. Other men had seized Morgana's chains, leading her away. Lucien tried to follow. More silver blades stopped him. The crowd pressed in, afraid to get involved. Rosalind saw Lucien's face, saw desperation, the same expression he must have worn 6 years ago. Not again. She wouldn't let history repeat. She bit the hand covering her mouth, hard, tasted blood. Her captor yelped. She twisted free, ran. Not toward the entrance. Toward where they'd taken Morgana, toward the tower at the back where feral vampires were held before execution. Behind her, Lucien's roar. Rosalind, she didn't stop, burst through a door, up spiral stairs, following the sound of chains. The tower room was circular, silver-barred windows. In the center, Morgana, chained to a post, Silas standing over her with a silver stake. I should have done this 6 years ago, he was saying. Should have finished you then. You'll die. Ravenshade will be disgraced, and the girl will be mine. He raised the stake. Rosalind threw herself between them. Move, girl. No, this doesn't concern you. It concerns me entirely. You want to kill her because she's evidence of your crimes, but I won't let you. Silas's face twisted. Then maybe you should stop breathing. He lunged, not with the stake, with fangs, his vampiric nature revealed, moving faster than human. Rosalind stumbled back. Morgana's chains rattled. The feral vampire thrashed, not at Rosalind, at Silas. The chains broke, corroded by 6 years of struggling. They snapped. Morgana surged forward, feral, monstrous, but not attacking Rosalind, attacking Silas. He screamed, tried to fight, but Morgana was pure rage given form. The door burst open. Lucienne, he took in the scene. Morgana, no, you'll lose yourself. But Morgana had Silas pinned, claws at his throat, fangs bared. For just a moment, her eyes cleared, became human. I know, she said. Her voice was her own, lucid, clear. I know what I'm doing, Lucien. I'm choosing. For the first time in 6 years, I'm choosing. She looked at Rosalind, smiled. It was terrible and beautiful. She smells like who I used to be. Protect her. Don't fail her like you think you failed me. You didn't fail. You gave me 6 more years of kindness. That's more than I deserved. Morgana, please. But she'd already struck, fangs deep in Silas's throat. He convulsed. But feral vampire venom was deadly. Silas's hunters burst in, silver weapons raised. They saw their master being attacked. Open fire, silver bullets, silver blades, all aimed at Morgana. She took them. all of them, silver tearing through her, burning, killing. But she didn't let go until Silas was dead. Then she collapsed. Lucian caught her before she hit the ground. No, 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 no. Morgana looked up at him. Her eyes were blue again, human, clear. Finally, she whispered, finally I can see you without the hunger. Just you, my friend. Don't leave me, I can save you. Too late, silver's in my heart, I'm done, but she reached up, touched his scarred face. Thank you for not giving up on me, for keeping me human enough to make this choice, to save her, to be a hero one last time instead of a monster. You were never a monster. I was, but I'm not anymore. I'm just Morgana, and I'm ready to rest. Her hand fell, her eyes closed, her breath stopped. Morgana Sinclair died human. Not feral, not corrupted. Human. Lucian held her, rocking slightly, making sounds that weren't quite sobs, just grief given voice. Rosalind knelt beside them, put her hand on his shoulder. I'm so sorry. She saved you, after everything. After 6 years of agony, she saved you. She saved herself too. She took back control, made a choice. That's more than most people get. The council guards arrived, taking in the scene. Silas's body, Morgana's, the blood. The elder appeared, looked at the carnage, at Lucien holding Morgana, at Rosalind beside him. What happened here? Rosalind stood, faced him. Justice, Morgana Sinclair chose to save an innocent, chose to stop a monster, chose to die human instead of living as a creature. That's what happened. And Fairmont revealed himself, attacked me. She protected me. Your laws allow self-defense, even for feral vampires. The elder studied her, then Lucien, then Morgana's peaceful face. We will investigate, but preliminary findings suggest, he paused, suggest that perhaps feral vampires retain more humanity than we believed, that they can choose, can act with honor. He gestured to his guards, give Lord Ravenshade time to mourn. We'll reconvene tomorrow. Then they left. The room emptied, until it was just Lucien, Rosalind, and Morgana's body. I need to bury her, Lucien said, voice hollow, properly, with dignity. I'll help you. They carried her down, out of the council hall, into the carriage, drove through the night to Thornwick. Lucien held Morgana the entire way. Rosalind held him. They buried her at dawn, in the garden behind the castle, under a willow tree. Lucien dug the grave himself, refused help. When it was done, when Morgana rested in the earth, he stood there, silent, broken. She's at peace now, Rosalind said softly. She died saving you. I should have. You did everything you could. For 6 years, you gave her a chance. She used it. It's not enough. No, but it's what we have. They stood in the dawnlight. The air smelled of rain and earth and endings. Rosalind took Lucien's hand. He didn't pull away. Come inside, she said. You need to rest. I can't rest. Every time I close my eyes, I see her. Then don't close your eyes. Stay with me. Let me keep the ghosts away. He looked at her, really looked. Why do you stay? You could leave. You're free. Silas is dead. Your family's debt is gone. I stay because I choose to, because you need someone, because Morgana's last gift was saving me so I could save you. I don't need saving. Liar, she said it gently. You just didn't know how to ask. His composure cracked. He pulled her close, not romantically, desperately, like a drowning man grabbing a lifeline. She held him while he shook, while he grieved. When he finally pulled back, his eyes were red. His face was wet. I don't know how to do this, he admitted, how to live with loss. One day at a time, one moment. He touched the necklace at her throat, the Ravenshade crest. You're really staying. I'm really staying. Why? Because somewhere between the carriage and now I stopped pretending, and I think you did too. He cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. Rosalind, say it, whatever you're thinking. I'm thinking that you walked into my life covered in blood and desperation and somehow became the only thing that makes sense. I'm thinking that I'm terrified of loving you because everyone I've ever loved has suffered for it. Then love me anyway. Love me despite the fear. You make it sound simple. It is simple, you've just forgotten how. He kissed her then, gentle at first, tentative, then deeper. She kissed him back, tasting salt tears and dawn and new beginnings. When they finally parted, he rested his forehead against hers. Stay, he whispered. Not as a guest, not as a partner, as my wife, for real. Ask me properly. He dropped to one knee, right there into the garden, by Morgana's grave, pulled a ring from his pocket. The Ravenshade signet, heavy gold with a raven carved in onyx. Rosalind Ashcroft, will you marry me not for protection, not for partnership, but because in all my years I have never met anyone who made me want to be better, who made me remember what it means to hope. Will you be my wife, my Duchess, my reason for facing tomorrow? Tears streamed down her face. Yes, God, yes. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. They stood. He kissed her again. The sun rose over Thornwick Castle, light breaking over darkness, hope over despair. The council issued their judgment the following week. Morgana's death was ruled heroic sacrifice. Lucien was cleared of all charges, and the council granted permission for research into feral vampire rehabilitation with funding and resources. Because Rosalind's blood held the answer, not as food, as medicine. Her rare genetic markers contained enzymes that could stabilize the transformation process, could reverse corruption, could cure. Too late for Morgana, but not for others. They married for real 3 months after Silas's death. A small ceremony. Just family and close friends. Rosalind wore white, Lucien wore black, and when they said their vows, every word was true. She remained human. Her choice. He would watch her age, watch her die eventually, but they decided that was better than an eternity without truly living. 1 year after the Blood Moon Ball, Rosalind stood in the research clinic they'd built in Thornick's East Wing, watching as a young vampire recently turned feral received the first dose of serum developed from her blood. The results were slow, gradual, but undeniable. The red faded from the vampire's eyes. Coherence returned. Humanity restored. It works, the head researcher breathed. My God, it actually works. Lucien appeared at Rosalind's side, slipped an arm around her waist. Morgana would be proud. She made this possible. No, you made this possible. Your refusal to give up. She leaned into him. We made it possible. Some nights Rosalind played piano in the music room. Chopin, always Chopin. Lucien would listen, and the silence that had filled Thornwick was replaced with music, with life, with love. Some nights they visited Morgana's grave, told her about the clinic, about the vampires saved, about the hope spreading through their world. Thank you, Lucien would whisper to the stone, for giving me one more chance, for saving her so she could save me. Rosalind's father visited regularly, sober, working, becoming the father he should have been. Mrs. Helena watched the Duke and Duchess with quiet satisfaction, watched her master smile, really smile. Love suits you, Your Grace, she told him once. Yes, he'd replied, I think it does. The clinic expanded, became a hospital, then a network. Feral vampires from across Europe came for treatment. Most were saved, some couldn't be, but all were treated with dignity, with hope. Years passed. Rosalind and Lucien built a life together. A daughter came. They named her Morgana. Little Morgana with her mother's eyes and her father's dark hair. She grew up running through Thornwick's halls, learning piano from her mother, learning vampire history from her father, growing up between two worlds and belonging to both. The research continued. Their daughter eventually took over the clinic, then their grandchildren. The Ravenshade name became synonymous with hope, with healing. Lucien watched his wife age, watched silver thread through her hair, watched laugh lines form around her eyes, and he thought she'd never been more beautiful. On their 50th anniversary, he found her in the garden, by Morgana's grave, fresh flowers in her hands. Still bringing her flowers, he asked. Always, she gave us this life. He sat beside her on the bench beneath the willow, took her hand, the one wearing his ring. I've been thinking, he said, dangerous occupation. I've been thinking that I'm grateful that I was positioned near that church all those years ago, that you dove into my carriage, that you chose to stay. Best decision I ever made. Mine too, he kissed her hand. All of it led to you, to this, to us. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I love you, monster and all. I'm not a monster anymore. You cured me of that. No, you cured yourself. I just reminded you how. The sun set over Thornwick. Inside light burned in every window. Music drifted from the house where their granddaughter practiced. Laughter echoed from the clinic where staff celebrated another successful treatment. The scarred Duke and his aging Duchess sat in the garden, surrounded by flowers, by peace, by evidence of lives saved and hope restored. And on Morgana Sinclair's grave, fresh roses bloomed, always fresh flowers, because they never forgot. The blood moon had brought reckoning, but also redemption, also love, also proof that even the longest night eventually yields to dawn. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, if you choose bravely and love fiercely, the dawn is more beautiful than you ever imagined possible. Rosalind lived a full life, 93 years. When she died peacefully in her sleep with Lucien holding her hand surrounded by children and grandchildren, he knew what he had to do, because she'd taught him that love was a choice. Every day, every moment. And so for the first time in 244 years, Lord Lucien, Ravenshade Duke of Thornwick, chose to let go of immortality, chose to follow her into whatever came after. Certain she would be waiting. In the garden at Thornwick, 3 graves rest under the willow tree. Morgana, Rosalind, Lucien. The clinic still stands, still saves lives, still carries on their legacy. And the story of the runaway bride and the scarred duke lives on. Not as tragedy, but as hope. Proof that even monsters can find redemption. That even the scarred can be beautiful. That even the broken can be whole, if they just choose to try. Together.